Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and I guess still good morning to those of you joining from the West Coast and farther west. Uh, I'm Nick Montoni, Innovation Policy Advisor for Third Way's Climate and Energy Program. I'm happy to welcome you today to Plugging into Federal Clean Energy Programs. Third Way and the Clean Energy Business Network are jointly hosting this event to help connect the clean energy community to programs and opportunities at the United States Department of Energy. I think before we begin, I want to give a little bit of the state of play in clean energy innovation policy. We all know that the federal government plays a really crucial role in conducting and funding research and development. Specifically, we put about $8 billion worth of public investment into the clean energy innovation ecosystem each year. This investment occurs across a range of federal departments and agencies, but the lion's share of that responsibility is taken on by the Department of Energy. Now, I know when we talk about innovation, people might think that's sort of like an academic or wonky buzzword, but the truth of the matter is that innovation has real-world impacts. I think the first thing to say is that the clean energy sector provides opportunities for over 3 million workers each year, and innovation itself allows us to leverage and grow the expertise of our scientists and entrepreneurs. It reduces energy costs, it makes our economy more efficient and competitive, and it helps improve air and water quality for everyone and the communities who need it most. We're in a really excellent position, right now at this point in time. Last fall, with the enactment of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, we're in a great position to continue to grow our innovation ecosystem. This new infrastructure law puts $21 billion into late-stage clean energy demonstrations and billions more in energy R&D over the next 5 years. This is a historic investment. It's going to allow scientists, innovators, and workers to create, test, adopt, and diffuse even more clean energy ideas. Now, all of that is to say, if we want to truly leverage this new funding and these new programs and meet our mid-century carbon reduction goals, we are going to need further investments in clean energy innovation. This is not the time to rest on our laurels. Now, I've outlined a lot of funding, right? I think something like, I don't know, many, many billions of dollars. I lost count. But sometimes it's not easy to find and use this funding. So, for example, maybe you're an engineering professor and your research group has just made a breakthrough on a membrane technology for an electrochemical battery. How do you go about getting startup funding to actually manufacture those membranes? Maybe you're an entrepreneur or business owner and you have a working prototype for a perovskite solar cell. How do you go about demonstrating and validating this technology at a larger scale? The purpose of this event is to demonstrate some of the ways that federal investments can connect America's energy innovators to their technology development goals. We have a great event for you today, and I'm not just saying that because I helped plan it. First, we'll listen in on a conversation between Dr. Vanessa Chan, who's the director of the Office of Technology Transitions at the Department of Energy, and Dr. Lynn Abramson, the president of the Clean Energy Business Network. After that wraps up, we'll tune in for a panel discussion moderated by Farah Benamed of Breakthrough Energy. This discussion will occur among a range of energy innovation experts who will discuss specific opportunities at the Department of Energy for innovators to plug into. At the very end of this moderated discussion, we will open the floor up to audience questions. So throughout the panel discussion, we all encourage you to make healthy use of the Q&A function in Zoom. There's a little button for it at the bottom of the screen. So once again, a hearty thank you for joining us today. We have attendees from the science, business, and policy worlds tuning in from nearly every state in the nation. So I'm personally thrilled to see so much excitement and interest in clean energy innovation opportunities. And I am happy to turn this conversation over to Lynn Abramson of the Clean Energy Business Network. Take it away, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Nick, and thank you so much to all of our attendees for joining us today. We hope that you find this to be a valuable program and learn more about Department of Energy programs. And I also want to just echo Nick's thanks to our panelists for sharing their expertise today. Wish everyone also a happy Valentine's Day, and thank you for coming to celebrate your love of clean energy innovation with us. So it is my great honor to welcome Dr. Vanessa Chan, who is the Chief Commercialization Officer for the Department of Energy and Director of the Office of Technology Transitions. In this role, she is responsible for the commercialization activities across the Department of Energy, the 17 national laboratories, and the department's other research and production facilities across the country. She herself is an innovator who has worked across a wide range of ecosystems, from academia to Fortune 1000 companies to startups. She's currently on leave from a program leading innovation and entrepreneurship at the University of Pennsylvania's School of Engineering and Applied Sciences. And she previously held positions at McKinsey & Company, Vanguard, and United Technology Corporation as board directors and staff members. Dr. Chan earned her PhD in Materials Science and Engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and her Bachelor's of Science and Engineering in Materials Science and Engineering from the University of Pennsylvania. So welcome, Vanessa, and thank you so much again for joining us today.
Thanks, Lynn, for inviting me. So great to see CEBN at the steward of these. And I just have to say, shout out to Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And I have to tell you that I definitely think I'm at the right department, because today the Office of Science sends some adorable Valentine's Day greetings, including one that says, "I think about you periodically." So go to the Office of Science social media and you'll see some really cute Valentine's greetings.
That is adorable. I do enjoy nerdy Valentines, so I'd like to see that.
Yep.
Well, as I mentioned when I was going over your bio, you have extensive firsthand experience, both as an entrepreneur yourself, and actually I would love if you could share some of the anecdotes of that, including your adorable board members, but also through your years of experience supporting entrepreneurs in understanding what it takes to bring a new technology to market. So can you just briefly walk us through that process and the steps innovators need to take to first fully commercialize their innovations?
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you that I think the journey of entrepreneur is a really, really exciting one, because it's one where by definition, you are traveling a road that has never been traveled before. You're breaking through something that is brand new. And I think a couple of key points I want to make, especially for folks that are working on a technology that they're trying to commercialize. Oftentimes you're working with technology that is of a strong interest to you, which is great, but it's really, really important to get market-backed input. To really understand what is it that the marketplace is looking for, where are the gaps, and how could your technology potentially solve a problem? Now, it's really hard because if you've been working on this technology for a very long time, you sometimes fall in love with your own technology. and so it can be hard, right, to hear the market back input. And so I say this all the time to entrepreneurs that I mentor is, we're born with 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. And we should use it in that ratio when we're talking to the marketplace and really ask ourselves, what are we seeing? What are we hearing? And think about ways that your technology could solve a problem. And sometimes what you find is your technology is actually going after the wrong problem, or you have to pivot your technology a certain way to really make an impact. And so I think that's the very first thing that you need to do in terms of the process is spend time with the market. And once you've had a chance to do that, and you're starting to understand what the market need is and what the gap is and the problem you have to solve, you then have to understand the value chain. And so, especially for those of you who may be material science innovators, there is a catch-22 where you invent something that can be really impactful to an end user, but in between the materials that's invented and the end product that an end customer is buying, there's all these players in between that you have to convince to actually build out, use your material and build it out to the end product. And so you have to understand what is their concerns about trying to bring something to market, what are the changes they have to make, and what do they have to invest in order to bring your technology to market. And then, so, once you have a chance to understand what is the problem you're trying to solve from the market, who are the players that you need to activate in the ecosystem actually help you get your thing to market. The hardest thing is the first revenues, right? How do you get the first customer who really wants your thing and is willing to get there? And in between that, there's a need to raise capital oftentimes, right? Many people start with their friends and family round, but after that, when you start getting serious, start going to angel investors and others like that. And so across all of those, there's many steps to be taken, but I think the key thing is to surround yourself with advisors and mentors and peers who are going through this or have gone through this, because you will learn so much from them. And here at OTT, at the Department of Energy, we run the Energy I-Corps, which is a 2-month program that our researchers can spend half their time learning to talk to the market and learning to put together pitch decks for their technology. And so I encourage you guys to look for opportunities like that. A lot of accelerators, incubators have similar programs, and that's a really great way to get some structure around how you get market-backed input.
That's great. And yes, when you described all of those steps that it takes to bring the technology to market, I mean, that can be really daunting. So we definitely want to unpack further with you the programs such as an Energy I-Corps that can help. Before we get into that, I wanted to ask you to help map out the major barriers to technology development at all stages throughout the innovation lifecycle, and particularly at that point of commercial adoption.
Yeah, so technology development, I wish I could say, well, here's the complete playbook. And if you look at this, here's all the barriers and just go after it. It's much messier than that. And a lot of it depends on the technology that you have. What kind of incumbent solution are you trying to displace? And as a result, the major barriers can be a little bit different. That said, I think, first of all, the biggest barrier I would say, especially for lab-based technology, is how do you translate something from the lab bench to the real world? So for example, if you have a new material, which you think is showing more promise in terms of its ability to convert, say, solar energy into electricity, and you can see that in the lab experiments that you're doing, you then have to think about, okay, now we have to get it to a prototype phase. So how do you actually take that material, form it into a prototype, which is actual solar cell? And then when you put that solar cell in the real world, is that material able to stand up to the real world environment? So if you can imagine, right, you have sunlight that is shining on a material, then it may degrade because of the sun, right? Not all materials can have the stability in the sun, and sun exposure could damage it. And so there's a lot of different things that can come up. And so I think really the key for you is to be open-minded as you're going through things. And when you hit a barrier, like something isn't working, there's something flawed in your technology, be creative and be open to thinking about what can you do to pivot this. Either there's a new application or there's something that you can tweak. I'm sure many of you guys know 3M's Post-it notes are a mistake. They're trying to make the strongest adhesive out there, and it didn't work. And sure enough, they found an application where you actually need a weak adhesive. And so there's a lot of opportunities like that, where I think the most important thing is similar to those people who do telemarketing. They say, free the heel, free the mind. I think the key thing for you here is to just free the mind, right? Don't have these like kind of preconceived notions that you need them to kind of guide you. But as your hypotheses may not be getting where you want it to go, think expansively and talk to a lot of people about what you might want to do with that information. And so I would actually say there's a thematic mindset. And I see the picture behind you where you have like 2 brains. So I know mindset must be important to you as well, Lynn. But I think there's a fundamental mindset, which is really important to get over, which can be a major barrier, is feeling like you have the answer from day one when you had your idea. That can be the biggest barrier. Not learning to let that go can actually really make it hard. And so if you can release that and talk to as many people as possible, be open-minded, then I think that would be really important. The other theme I want to share in terms of big barriers, especially with technologists like myself, is sometimes we can overly focus on the technical milestones that we're trying to hit. And there's many large companies and other organizations I've worked with where we have technology stage gates and we're focused on trying to get through those. In practice, though, in addition to the technology barriers you have to overcome, market adoption barriers are just as challenging sometimes to get over. And the supply chain or value chain I talked about under your first question, oftentimes will bring out antibodies to attack new technologies because there is a resistance to change. If you think about the fact that if you're manufacturing something, there are sunk costs already. Someone has already built a plant that is making something that you are now trying to displace. And so oftentimes it's the market adoption barriers are the ones that are important to manage. And so really getting an understanding of the value proposition of your technology, understanding what is the cost today for the incumbent technology, and being able to articulate why is it that your solution really will make a material difference to the world, and that people are willing to pay for this superior value proposition, that is so critical, because you need to get the entire ecosystem with you. And if you don't work on that market adoption early in parallel with the technical side of it, you may find that you've solved all the technology issues, but you haven't primed the market, you haven't primed the ecosystem to be working with you to bring this to market.
Excellent. So as you've talked a little bit about some of these barriers, can you talk a little bit about how the Office of Technology Transitions can help? And discuss, what exactly does technology transition mean for you and your office? What stage of technology development do you focus on?
Great question. So all of these words like commercialization, transitioning, all that can be very squishy words and mean different things to different people. So I'll tell you how I think about it. First of all, commercialization in my mind is moving across the research to development, demonstration to deployment continuum. It's the entire continuum. So if you're going to get something from lab to market, you're trying to commercialize it, you have to move across the RD, D&D continuum. And as such, we don't focus on just one stage at OTT, we're focused on the entire continuum. And the important thing is to understand what are the transition points across the continuum for technology? How do you think about the role that the private sector plays in addition to the public sector? Because if you think about this, right, we have $62 billion coming from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. There's over 23 trillion in the private sector. And so we need to connect those, right, if we're really going to be able to commercialize things at scale. And so what we focus here at the Office of Technology Transitions are barriers that are preventing us from moving across the RD&D continuum, and then looking for programs or ways in which we can really help solve those barriers so it's easier for us to move across the continuum to drive to commercialization. And when you're going through to that final stage of deployment, there's different routes to it, right? In the case of our lab-based technology, it could be anything from a license. So for those of you who watch Shark Tank, Mr. Wonderful loves licenses. That is absolutely a transition of a technology to market, because now there is an external entity that's looking to license your technology to bring it to market. You could form a brand new company, right? That also is a way to get your technology to market, or you could be acquired by a company that is looking for your technology and to fold it into their portfolio. All of those are transitions of a technology to a market. And quite frankly, we're agnostic to it. As long as we can get our technologies to market, we don't mind if it's a license, we don't mind if it's an acquisition or the route that it gets there. The point is that it's getting to the marketplace, so it's having an impact on the ecosystem and having impact on end consumers. And that's really what we're trying to get to. And so we're focused on all stages, we're focused on all problems that are preventing us from commercializing. And that's really what our focus is here at OTT.
That's great. And I would love to just unpack that further. So you talked about the importance of leveraging the private sector. Can you speak further on how your programs seek to forge those relationships with the private sector, and specifically, the types of challenges we often hear from innovators in terms of what they're seeking are money or connections. They're looking for funding, or they're looking connections to the right people that can either become the customers or the investors or the market drivers. So can you talk further about that relationship between the DOE and private sector?
So I think connections are so critical, and sometimes many times it's not even the money, it's about the ecosystem, the network, and trying to figure out what are the pathways with which you have to get yourself to market, of which money is only one component of it. And so the key thing is, COVID makes it a little bit challenging, is networking. It's a little hard. I think events like this that you're doing virtually are really critical, because it's giving people a sense of the types of things that we're doing here at DOE. But ultimately, once we're on the other side of the pandemic, or we're at a place where we can manage the pandemic in the real world, it'd be great to kind of meet people so we can share a lot of the work that we're doing. I think also for OTT, sometimes, what we're trying to do is make sure things are more accessible. And so as an example of this, we have a lab partnering service. You can go access at labpartnering.org. And it's a one-stop shop for anyone to connect to DOE's complex of 17 national labs and the incredible expertise and patents and things that we have here at DOE. And so for anyone out there, including small businesses, you can find IP that we're working on. You can reach out to labs on technology or question that you might have. And so this is a way that we really try to lower the accessibility and make it more accessible, lower the barriers to accessibility to the Department of Energy. We also are super excited about really trying to catalyze the nation around commercialization and really supporting startups. And so we have a new program that we just wrapped up its inaugural year in 2021, which is the Energy Program for Innovation Clusters, EPIC. I know, a really great acronym. What we do here with EPIC is we're providing funding to regionally based incubators who are heavily involved in supporting startups, innovators, and small businesses. And this past year, we funded 30 of these at a tune of a little over $10 million. And so really it's to catalyze these incubators who are trying to do energy hardware development. And we see this as a really vital program that the DOE has to bridge the small businesses into some of the opportunities we have here at DOE and address some of the barriers that we talked about as well. And so there'll be hopefully more of this to come. It's a program that we currently are getting annual appropriations for. And so in 2022, we'll be launching another EPIC opportunity as well. So those are just some examples of ways that we're trying to really bridge that gap to the private sector.
Excellent. And this leads into my final question for you, which is, you talked about accessibility, and anyone who has heard me speak before or been in a meeting with me hears me talk about how we need to make federal programs more accessible for small businesses. And so I know that you share that belief as well. To what extent are OTT's programs accessible to small businesses? I know some of the programs you mentioned, such as Energy I-Corps, are geared specifically towards startups. You mentioned lab partnering service, but others may be more geared towards supporting the ecosystem of support for startups. Can you just describe further how small businesses might be able to tap into the resources that you have to offer, either directly or indirectly?
Yeah, so there are all kinds of opportunities here at DOE to support small business. I mentioned a couple of them just now, but for example, I know you're going to hear from John Carlisle later, who leads the chain reaction group that is at Argonne, that is really helping to bring small businesses to our national labs. And we have several of these similar type of programs here at the Department of Energy. And I think the key thing is to, stay abreast to the FOAs and the things that are going on, because there's a lot of opportunities there. We've also been instituting prizes, which are a little bit easier to navigate, especially for those who don't have the resources to dedicate to a FOA. And then I know I have colleagues from the small business SBIR and STTR on that can also speak to some of the non-dilutive funding. When I was an angel investor and also on the board of several startups, we always pointed people to SBIR, STTR. That is a wonderful opportunity for you to get non-dilutive funding, which I think is really key, especially when you're early stages of trying to translate what you've developed in the lab into a prototype and getting your way towards further down the commercialization pathway. So I think the key thing here is to network, as you say, find out what is out there. And I really appreciate the fact that you have a virtual event like this, so we can showcase some of the stuff. And I know a lot of my colleagues like Jenny Gerber and others are here today to share some of the amazing stuff that's going across DOE. And so I know that the group here will be learning much more around the kinds of opportunities you have at DOE. And here at OTT, we're here to help in any way we can, starting with the lab partnering service.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Vanessa. The time has flown by, and I appreciate the shout out to the panelists we'll be hearing from in just a moment. And I just wanted to also flag for our attendees that the Clean Energy Business Network puts out a totally complimentary US clean tech funding database, where we're doing the work of trying to comb through some of those funding opportunities for you and flag those for you. And we'll put the link to that in the chat. So definitely consider that a resource. We're going to be working on trying to make that integrate with email updates, and additionally launch some blog posts this year summarizing some of the Department of Energy programs that are available, including the ones we'll be hearing about today. So Vanessa, thank you again for kicking off our event. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Farah Benamin, who is Manager of US Policy and Advocacy at Breakthrough Energy, who will be moderating our next panel.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you to the Clean Energy Business Network and Third Way for organizing and sponsoring this important event. Hi, everyone. I'm Farah Benamed with Breakthrough Energy, a network of investment, philanthropic, and policy initiatives all focused on getting to net zero by 2050. I'm excited to welcome our panel today to talk about the many opportunities at the Department of Energy to advance breakthrough technologies. We hope after this panel that you have a better idea of the variety of resources at DOE, hear best practices, learn how to apply, and more. We'll begin with a number of moderator questions and end with an audience Q&A. As questions come up, please submit them in the Q&A feature below, and I will do my best to share as many as I'm able with the speakers. With that, I'm excited to welcome our many panelists. We have Rob Edwards, Director of Outreach and Business Development at the Loan Programs Office, Dr. John Carlisle, Director of Chain Reaction Innovations at the Argonne National Laboratory, Dr. Jenny Gerby, Acting Director for RPE, Dr. Eileen Chant, Outreach Manager for the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer Programs, and Dr. Rukmani Vijayaraghavan, Innovation and Market Transformation Advisor at the Water Power Technologies Office. Let's start with the round robin from everyone. Each of you work on different stages of the innovation cycle and provide different types of resources to advance the commercialization of clean energy technologies. In 1 to 2 minutes, give us a brief overview of your program and how it supports innovators looking to obtain federal support. Let's start with Rukmani, and then follow with Jenny, Rob, John, and Eileen. Take it away, Rukmani.
Yeah, thanks, Farah. And again, thank you everyone for being here in CEBN and Breakthrough and Third Wave for helping put this together. So yeah, my name is Riplani Vijayaraghavan, and I work in the Water Power Technologies Office, which is one of the 10 program offices within the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. And what we do is support R&D for hydropower and marine energy technologies. So we support foundational research at labs at universities. We support small businesses. We also, and we do this through a number of different mechanisms. So we have prize competitions that really anyone can apply into. We support SBIR, which Eileen is going to talk about in more detail, that are really aimed at helping small businesses carry out various projects. And then we have larger funding opportunities that are really aimed at specific technologies and advancing them through the continuum. And we also have a number of different programs that support the larger innovation ecosystem. We partner with the Economic Development Administration to support incubators and accelerators in the blue economy. So in our office and in EERE overall, we really are focused on the entire continuum, all the way from fundamental research all the way through supporting demonstration and deployment of clean energy technologies.
Hi, a little bit about RPE. We have an interesting task, which is to do the most high risk, high reward, disruptive research as possible, figure out which problems should be solved and why, and what those solutions should look like. We put out focused program funding announcements that are based on this work that you can see on our exchange site. We also work outside in that we have a very large open funding announcement every 3 years. We actually just today, the secretary made the announcements of our most recent open FOA, so $175 million, and there's 68 projects. We also have something called SEED, which is an SBIR only seedling program, and that is also open right now. So we have a number of different models. We also have a competition model. So we have a grid competition, the part 3 of that coming out in just a couple weeks. So, you know, we work with a very bottom-up kind of a structure. We don't have roadmaps. You know, we're trying to find the next thing. We're not trying to move something that already exists sort of further along the path, but saying that, you know, we have a market view right from the start. So we have a big tech to market function. Those are on everybody's teams. And we think along that whole value chain that Vanessa was mentioning in terms of what does a solution need to look like to make an impact? Because we are focused on impact, and you don't have impact if somebody isn't going to make what you want, sell what you want, buy what you want, and use what you want. So we think about this in the very beginning. And, you know, one of the ways that we help teams is that we often work with very small, brand new startups, 2 large companies, 2 national labs, 2 academic teams, and combinations of all of them together. So we have a lot of flexibility in how we do things. We fund cooperative agreements usually and not grants. And we work very closely with our teams to try to help them succeed to the next step. And we've even started another kind of funding announcement. This one is called Scale Up, to help teams that have been at RPE before move to that next commercialization step.
Jenny, Rob?
Great. Great. Well, this is a good sequencing, Farah. If Jennifer is starting at the very earliest stages of the development of disruptive technologies, the Loan Programs Office operates at the very end of the spectrum of activities that are supported by the Department of Energy. I'm Rob Edwards, and I am the Director of the Outreach and Business Development Division at the LPO. And in the LPO, we are a policy bank focused on building the bridge to bankability for companies which have reached that stage in their development where they are ready to build a large manufacturing plant, where they will build a plant large enough to supply the market with commercial product, or if they are a company that is sort of doing development on a large scale, perhaps move from developing solar and storage for commercial and industrial buildings, for example, from doing 200 buildings to 5,000 or 10,000 buildings. And we can provide the senior secured debt that would allow companies to move from demonstration projects to full commercial scale projects, or open their first commercial scale manufacturing plant, for example, to build lithium-ion batteries for the auto industry, or batteries for stationary storage. I'll stop there, knowing that we're going to have a lot more time to circle back with each of these.
Thanks, Rob. Over to you, John.
Am I next? Great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm John Carlisle, the Director of Chain Reaction Innovations. CRI is one of 4 programs within the Lab Embedded Entrepreneurship Program that is sponsored primarily by the Department of Energy's Advanced Manufacturing Office in EERE. So there's a lot of unique aspects of the LEAP program that would be of interest to this audience. First of all, it's viewed as a workforce development program in part. It's a recognition that for a lot of science-based innovations, it's really vital that the scientists that made the discoveries be directly involved in translating them into applications. A usual STEM education background doesn't do that. And so there's a keen focus on the people like the people behind me here, trying to find the next generation of energy entrepreneurs and train them in how to translate technologies in the market, how to build a business around them, ultimately how to drive something at scale into deployment. So if you win a slot in the program, we do a national search each year, you get paid full time by a fellowship to try to make your dream come true. That's really disruptive. The other thing that's really interesting is the national labs. It's the Lab Embedded Entrepreneurship Program. The lab part is that when you join the program, you move to a national lab, in our case, Argonne National Laboratory, and you spend 2 years working with lab scientists who have unique capabilities, skills to help de-risk your technology. So it's like $300,000 to play around in a $1 billion makerspace, if you will, to try to de-risk your technology and deliver ultimately a venture that's investable, technology that's deployable. Third thing is our teams that are at each LEAP node. We're here to nurture and guide and encourage and connect the innovators in our programs with the ecosystems that we're all embedded in. In the case of Chicago, it's a wonderfully diverse ecosystem with a lot of resources, investors and industries, everyone very passionate about clean tech, decarbonizing industries, and also a particular focus in Chicago on energy justice, on connecting energy innovations to underrepresented groups and communities, particularly on the south side of Chicago.
Eileen?
Hi, everyone. Happy to be here and be talking to this really large group. It's pretty exciting. I'm the outreach manager for the DOE SBIR STTR program. Everybody should be aware that there are 11 different federal agencies that have SBIR programs. So there are many options when you're looking for ways to develop and commercialize your early stage idea. The DOE's program is the third largest of the 11 programs. And as kind of discussed before, we fund your early stage ideas that also sync with the DOE mission. We do have fairly focused topics that you must be responsive to. So you must, if you're working in an area that you think that the DOE might be interested in funding, you should take one of our topics documents when they're released and take a close look at it and see if there's a way that you can make your technology address the problem being discussed in the topics documents. And don't be narrow-minded when you think about what the DOE is interested in funding, because we fund clean energy, but we also fund atmospheric monitoring, environmental technologies, instrumentation, fusion energy, nuclear energy, and the list goes on and on. And if you do receive an award, we have the phase 1 program, which is approximately 9 months to a year, and you get $200,000 to $250,000 to develop your idea and to start thinking about your commercialization strategy. If you are successful in proving feasibility during phase 1, you have a pretty good chance of moving on to a $1.1 to $1.6 million grant over 2 years to take your technology and pivot towards commercialization. There we do offer a lot of support programs along the way for applicants and awardees, and I think we're going to get into a little bit of that more later in the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Eileen, and thank you all for the really great overview. I want to follow up with something that you said, John, about the LEAP program's role in de-risking technologies, because I definitely think that's something that not only LEAP does well, but LPO, RPE, and the other offices here, and also at other programs at DOE. So I wanted to see if you would delve in a little bit more and see if anyone else had any follow-up about the government's role in de-risking clean energy innovative technologies.
Yeah, I can start the discussion on that. The labs have an incredible resources to help mature clean tech technologies, especially science-based innovations. Everyone here should understand they require very sophisticated tools, very sophisticated know-how. If you had to replicate that sort of infrastructure outside the lab, it would cost millions of dollars. So one of the founding premises of the LEAP program, which I think has really been borne out in the impact that we've shown, is we're able to almost 10x more efficiently move these technologies to market because we're able to tap into the national labs and what they uniquely have to offer.
I might add, I love the topic of de-risking, because I think what's fascinating is every one of us participating in the program are involved in de-risking in one way or another, but we are doing that at different stages of either technology readiness levels, or in our case, in the LPO, technology has already been demonstrated at the demonstration scale. But our mandate is to be able to finance the first, second, or third commercial deployment of this technology at a large commercial scale. And the reason this is important is because the private financial markets are very uncomfortable stepping into that first of a kind commercial deployment. So if we give us some examples from the past, I happen to be serving in the Obama administration, it's my second time at DOE, and negotiated the Tesla loan. Well, needless to say, that was a first of kind commercial scale project. It was the first ever electric vehicle manufacturing company and production line we financed in the world. Nobody else in 2000 9 or 10 from the private sector would have stepped up and provided that financing. It's important to note that the LPO had de-risked the technology in this regard. Our engineers studied the technology from batteries to powertrains to construction of the vehicle, and all determined that that Elon and his team could technically build the car. The next piece of de-risking was, would there be a market for the car? And we had a separate study done by one of the leading consulting firms out of Detroit, who determined that there would be a place in the US automotive market for a very expensive all-electric sedan. Those are the de-risking activities that we undertook in order to underwrite the Tesla Model S. That's the same sort of work that we are now doing in the lithium-ion batteries for manufacturing plants for EVs, alternative chemistry batteries for stationary storage, and the list goes on and on.
I'll add just a very brief comment to both what John and Rob just said, which is that risk means different things to different people. RPE might think that we've de-risked something enough for it to move to the next stage, but somebody else's perception of risk is a different equation than ours, which is one of the reasons why we've expanded the kinds of funding that we work on, and why we're so excited at all of the new stuff coming into the DOE, because there's more opportunities for these technologies to be de-risked. And man, you have to de-risk these things over and over and over. You might think it's perfect, and then the next step, here's all the things they're worried about. So just keep in mind that, you know, you have to think about the perceptions of risk from the other point of view, and it's a hard road to get something de-risked all the way to commercialization.
In the SBIR program, as I indicated before, you can receive almost $1.8 million to develop your technology. But in addition to that, we do provide services to help you commercialize your technology, understand your market. We have the Technical and Business Assistance Program. We call it TABA. Between phase 1 and phase 2, you receive up to $56,000 in support to conduct market research, understand your customers, intellectual property considerations, and much more. And in addition to that, all phase 1 awardees have access to the Energy I-Core program as well, which is an intensive customer discovery program. And those programs are put into place to maximize your potential for success.
Yeah, and I can add on that a little bit. So in addition to what we do at EERE and in the Water Office on R&D to fund technology development, we also offer testing services. So these will help you, testing and demonstration services that really help you do either the tank testing or the testing of your systems, or numerical modeling services that'll help you prove that your device actually works, help move along your technology advancement. And we also offer vouchers to small businesses and developers to work with national labs directly to help solve the kind of problems that labs are uniquely equipped to do. So yeah, we really do support de-risking or any other effort from, again, at every stage of development, DOE.
Thank you all. Along the same vein, what are the greatest challenges or obstacles awardees face as they're trying to advance their technologies within each of your programs? And how do your programs try to ease or eliminate some of those issues? I'd love to start with Rob, then Jenny, John, Eileen, and then Riplani.
Well, it's interesting. Unlike the other programs at the Department of Energy and around the federal government, generally, we are open for business 24/7, 365 days a year. There's no such thing as a funding opportunity announcement. Our door is open for anyone who would like to apply for any of the 3 programs that we have. The Title 17 program, which covers energy efficiency, renewable energy, advanced fossil energy, and advanced nuclear. The ATVM program, which is the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Program, and then the Tribal Loan Program, which is focused on developing energy projects that will either be on tribal lands or off of tribal lands where the tribes can benefit. So our characteristic applicant is someone who has already developed their technology, their product, or their project, and they present it to us for, in essence, evaluation and underwriting, just like they would do by going to a commercial bank like JP Morgan or somewhere else. So the difference maybe between us and commercial banks is we are here to help folks who are working on first of kind deployments. As a result, people from my division, Outreach and Business Development, are available to work with applicants for months. We have some applicants that we've worked with for more than a year before they submit their application for formal evaluation. So the way we help FARA is we help. Our team, I've got about 20 people, and we are available to work with applicants and potential applicants, even when their projects are just beginning to take shape.
At RPE, there's a few different things that we do. One is that all of our contracting is in-house. And so, we work very closely with teams that maybe have never gotten government funding before. And that is an interesting hill to climb. So we try as much as we can to work directly with teams to help them understand what they need to do and sort of how to move forward. During the awards, we have something called substantial involvement, which is we have quarterly reviews with the program director, tech to market advisor, the entire team, along with their entire team, not just to look at technical progress, to also look at market progress, to see what's going on, to try to help the teams in any way we can, whether it's from the technical side or from the market side. We actively manage our portfolios, which means sometimes we shut things down. Sometimes we plus other things up. Most of what we try to do isn't going to work. That's what high risk means. And we've got to be comfortable with that and make sure our teams are comfortable with that. And again, just working very closely with them at all of these steps, I think is really important. And then the other one is just being involved with the agency. We have a very big summit every year. We're going to be having one in person at the end of May in Colorado this year, and then in DC next year. We generally have one every year. And that's another place where it's great for people to attend that and sort of learn what it's about, and talk to a bunch of our project teams and get advice from them too.
Well, there's so many challenges for our innovators, but one of the biggest ones is to transition from a perspective where I made a discovery in a lab and I want to see it through to a company, to building a team, to getting other people to buy into your vision and to put that team together and to guide them and nurture them. So we're asking our innovators to be the CEO, the CTO, and the lab tech at the same time at the very beginning. It's kind of an impossible task. And the driving function there is, okay, you've got to get more people in the room with you. They're not the normal people that you feel comfortable with talking to every day. They're business acumen, manufacturing acumen, sales, marketing. That gets to the other big point of our program, the embracing of diversity, equity, inclusion, because they want to build diverse teams. They want to put together diverse boards. They want to have inclusive innovation mind when they ideate products and services that they might want to conceive of addressing climate change. So a lot is on the plate for a clean tech entrepreneur. And the other thing that weighs on all of us is the need to deploy at scale at a rate that's just never been seen before, ever, especially when it comes to science-based innovations moving to decarbonize, the economy. 2050 is not that far away on the timescale of maturization of the technologies that this group of folks on the panel are accustomed to. So.
I'm up. So yeah, I mean, along the lines of what other people have been saying, the team that you build and the partners that you build are very important to take your technology successfully to the marketplace. I did talk about Energy I-Core and the TABA program already, but we do have additional partnering resources. Who do you need to build out your team? What kind of testing labs do you need to connect with? Manufacturing partners? Do you need help? Do you need help with from the national labs in terms of expertise or some of the facilities they have? Vanessa Chen had mentioned the labpartnering.org site. It's a very good site for examining collaboration with the national labs. For all phase 1 awardees, we do have a mandatory PI meeting. You get to come virtually and then someday in person again to a meeting. There's networking there. You get to meet with angel investors, other types of investors. You meet with commercialization experts. You get to talk to people about how to develop your commercialization plan, how to write your phase 2 proposal as well. So there's really a lot of different support programs for applicants, which I haven't even touched on, and awardees as well too. And a lot of that, all of that information is on our website, and I will put a few links into the chat about where you can look at our website and find out about all of these resources that are available.
And yeah, at EERE and at DOE overall, we are in the process of implementing something called the Justice 40 Initiative, which is really aimed at ensuring that 40% of our investments in clean energy are at disadvantaged communities. And so this gets at your question of, what barriers do people face? And so to help address this issue, at EERE, we launched an RFI, a request for information, about a few months ago to really understand what barriers people face in accessing DOE programs. And we released a report a couple of weeks ago outlining the challenges that we heard from the community and from people who don't really know how DOE works. And so like some of these are just not being aware of the DOE, of the funding opportunities that DOE has, but there are a number of other issues in just functioning within the DOE system, not knowing how to submit a 65-page application for a funding opportunity, right? Not having the resources, not having trusted partners. And so we are in the process of trying to address many of those barriers. And one type of funding program that we have used very successfully at EERE over the last few years are prize competitions. So these are really a new way for the federal government to do business almost. Prizes are meant to be as simple as possible for anyone with an idea to enter into. And they are, again, there is no cost share involved. And many of these are structured in a way that you have, you enter with an interesting idea, that's just a concept paper. And then through kind of structured support, through a multi-stage process, you can develop your technology, test your technology, and win progressively bigger and bigger awards. And so, yeah, we are at EERE, we are thinking very creatively on how we can both reach people who don't necessarily have access to the right networks and the right resources. And we want to make sure that everyone is part of the right network, not just if you've been to a big university or you know the right people. And so, yeah, watch the space for more programs from DOE.
Thank you. That's great. I'm going to pivot a little and direct this question to Jenny. I wanted to ask you about the recent GAO report that was released that looked into RPE and seeing if there were any redundancies in the department. I know there are great news, but I want to hear from you in how that went and what it means for RPE.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. That's a little Valentine's Day present. We appreciate it. It's pretty rare that a GAO audit comes out with really no recommendations for change. And so we were very, very proud of that. The reason that was possible is because we've always taken coordination and communication with the rest of DOE super seriously. I mean, we're just one little step on a path. And so, other parts of the DOE often are where these projects will move to next, whether it's it's a focused office at EERE or another place, or, even another department. And we want people involved because we want to hear, from their points of view, what these solutions need to look like. I mean, we learn from everybody we talk to. So we've always involved people from other parts of the DOE to be our reviewers, to attend our workshops, annual meetings with teams and things like that. So the fact that, an external audit saw that that was great. We really appreciated that. And it really comes down to, and I think this is something Vanessa mentioned before, it's really connections between people. And this is one of the hardest things to do, especially virtually, right? We want to build communities, connect as many people as possible to form a community to solve a problem. We're all on term limits. We're always hiring. We're hiring program directors right now and tech to market folks right now, because we're always bringing in new people, because it's the people that start these programs. So it really comes down to not walling yourself off in your special little tower because you're doing high risk stuff. It's completely the opposite of that. And you want to talk to as many people as you can talk to learn as much as you can. And so that's really what the agency is all about. And so it was really nice to see that reflected in the report.
Thank you, Jenny. And you mentioned hiring, and I would be remiss not to give you and others the opportunity to talk about the Clean Energy Corps, since that's one of DOE's biggest initiatives right now. So take it away.
Well, yeah, so the Clean Energy Corps is actually really exciting. This is a new way of hiring, and it's a very big deal that they did this. And that is that anybody who's interested in this space can put their information into this Clean Energy Corps site. And I recommend that everybody do that. We also hire directly as an agency. So that's actually outside of the Clean Energy Corps, which is sort of directly through our website. But, thinking about the billions of dollars that are coming into the DOE from, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, there are so many opportunities for people of all technical persuasions and business folks and just everywhere to come in and be a part of it. And it's really incredibly exciting.
Anyone else want to follow up before I move on?
Yeah, just a quick plug. So in addition to the Clean Energy Corps, which I encourage everyone to check out, a quick way to really get involved with DOE and many other federal agencies are through fellowships. So at DOE, we have a number of different fellowships through ORISE and through AAAS. That's how I first came to DOE, was as a AAAS Science and Technology Policy Fellow. And these are really intended to help people with, typically with science and engineering backgrounds, but there's a bunch of other expertises we look for to come work at DOE on short details, which very often turn into long-time careers like me. So, yeah.
I would just add that at the Loan Programs Office, we are very active in hiring both at Fed level and contractors. And I would say what's interesting about our office is that we hire a lot of business people with finance backgrounds, business backgrounds, and of course, we also have a group of engineers in our technology project management division, engineers across the range from electrical engineers to chemical engineers and the like. But for someone who does not have a scientific background, but a business background and interest and experience, please do keep an eye open for LPO opportunities.
Thank you, Rob. I also wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about DOE's new Undersecretary for Infrastructure and how LPO will be a part of that new office, and as well as a couple other programs at DOE. So we'd love to hear from you on that.
Sure. So when I was in the Obama administration, I was a deputy general counsel, and I worked with S3, which then was the Undersecretary for Energy, and that was Christina Johnson, not Christina Johnson. We now have renamed S3 to be the Undersecretary for Infrastructure, which recognizes that to achieve the administration's goals of a carbon-free electricity sector by 2035 and a net zero US economy by 2050, there is a tremendous amount of what we call infrastructure investment needed. And we're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars of infrastructure investment needed to achieve these goals. As our director of LPO, Jigar Shah, says, he wants to make a difference of $1 trillion at a time. So now we have this focus on infrastructure. Our office, LPO, will now fall under S3, as well as other offices like the offices for clean energy demonstrations. which is going to be an office focused on clean energy demonstration projects, which are just one step ahead of or earlier than what we do in LPO. So they will be offering up funding opportunity announcements of very large sums to do these demonstration projects. We at LPO, under Jigger's leadership, we have a hand in a lot of these new efforts which are being developed within the S3 Undersecretary of Infrastructure office, because our office probably has the most experience in the department in making infrastructure type investments.
Thank you, Rob. And on that note, Jenny, you mentioned earlier the Scale Up program, and I know that's another effort focused on later stage innovation. So wanted to give you the opportunity to talk more about the program and the kind of growth you're looking for from former RPE awardees that are applying for this opportunity.
Sure. It's amusing as to what I mentioned before. Later stage for us is still almost ridiculously early stage for everyone else. So it's all relative. We have a real focus on US manufacturing with the Scale Up program. That's something that we have requirements in our IP about, and that it's hard to commercialize anything. But now if you're talking about doing it in this country and having manufacturing in this country, that's hard. So we work with our awardees with a focus towards that, towards US manufacturing, and any current or prior awardees can apply, and it's based essentially on the IP that they have filed for that award. And so, this is really taking something that worked in the lab. Working in the lab is great if you're the one who made it work. But if you're someone who, is going to buy it for their company, that's just something that worked in a lab. You have to demonstrate that this works at the next scale in order to actually start attracting investment. All sorts of things can go wrong when you try to scale something up, even with that first step. And that's really what this is all about. These teams are expected to have some sort of financial commercial partners. There's 50% cost share. So it really does start to sort of engage and build, again, that community that's going to help this move forward to be a commercial success.
Thanks, Jenny. Eileen and John, I'd love to pivot to you. Talked a little bit earlier about ensuring diversity in your program. So I wanted to ask you all about that to give a little bit more color to how you're ensuring diversity in the outreach you conduct. So Eileen, I'd love to start with you, and then John for you to follow.
Okay, great. We have a very popular Phase 0 application assistance program. And so if you are a first-time DOE, SBIR, STTR applicant, you've never submitted an applicant to our program before, you can enroll in the program, and we have you receive one-on-one coaching to walk you through the application process. Now, it does have to be, you have to have your idea formed, but they can help you navigate the somewhat lengthy application process that is a Phase 1 application. We do have significant representation from underrepresented groups in our Phase 0 program, which is one of the goals of the program. One of the statutory directives of the SBIR program is to foster increased engagement with underrepresented groups in our program. And so we look for ways to do that within the confines of a technical merit-based R&D program. And some of that is through helping applicants, new applicants with our program. We also have an outreach campaign, and I'm expanding my community through social media and networking. I'm always looking for opportunities to do outreach. So I'm saying to this whole group, if you have even a smallish group of entrepreneurs who want to learn about the DOE SBIR STTR program, please reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat, and we could work on delivering a webinar to that group. I'm also very interested in doing webinars to underrepresented groups as well, socially and economically disadvantaged entrepreneurs, women-owned small businesses, and other underrepresented groups that we track. And we do also track our statistics, how we're doing, and where we're going, and to just kind of understand where we are now in terms of these goals and where we're going to be 5 years from now. And the last thing that I want to say is that if you look at our funding opportunity announcements, we have our diversity promoting program policy factors in the funding opportunity announcements. This is the first time this year, fiscal year 22 is the first time they've been there. And they do allow consideration of institutional diversity in technically meritorious awards. So those are some of our initiatives right now in improving the participation rate of women-owned and socially economically disadvantaged small businesses in our program, as well as veteran-owned businesses and disabled person-owned businesses and other categories as well.
Eileen, just a quick mention, I think just about all the innovators in our node at Argonne, as well as Oak Ridge Innovation Crossroads, took advantage of the SBIR Phase 0 program. Really invaluable dollars that can be put to use and purposes that normally you can't do in an SBIR project. So they found it of great benefit. As I mentioned earlier, diversity, equity, and inclusion has become really a central part of the program and how it's constructed from the ground up. But I'll tell everybody a story. When we run a national competition each year, and 2 years ago, 2020, when COVID was really raging, we noticed a very substantial drop in female founders applying to the program. This was a big alarm bell because our statistics run, about 50% of our founders are underrepresented groups and fully 30% are women founders, which is really great. We can do better in both those categories. We saw this huge drop. We did not know and understand what that was all about. We could speculate, but that really launched a whole effort re-examining how we communicated our program on every level to make sure that we weren't off-putting in ways that we weren't cognizant of, but would put off, people from an underrepresented group, female founders, from even considering joining the program. For instance, PhD founder, you're being a little bit exclusive because we welcome people with a bachelor's degree and 20 years of experience. The strike is the postdoc grad student. Well, there have been people older than me, amazingly enough, that have joined our program and wanted to, jump off an industrial job they've had for 40 years to really go take a flyer in a startup. So we did a lot of examining how we communicate. And then, of course, we did much more systemic outreach to MSIs, historically Black colleges and universities. All that takes a lot of effort to put all that together. And I'm pleased to say the cohort 6 that we're trying to land now is the most diverse cohort that we've had the pleasure to entertain applications from. So we're doing better each year. For me personally, it's been a great learning experience, just to be honest. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll keep doing better across the entire LEAP program.
Thank you both. Before I pivot to audience Q&A, I have one final question for Riplani. You mentioned earlier the really amazing prizes that ERE has, and I'd love to hear more about them, including the Inclusive Innovation Prize.
Yeah, so the Inclusive Energy Innovation Prize is now open, and CEBN has actually been a great partner in helping people apply into the prize, so shout out to that. But this is a prize which was partly informed by the results of the request for information. And the goal of this prize is to really fund intermediary organizations and the people who have experience in either being part of or working with disadvantaged communities, and helping innovators and entrepreneurs access DOE and DOE resources and funding. And so the prize is closing on the 25th. This is a $2.5 million prize. And in the first stage, we will award 10 prizes of $200,000 each to organizations that can provide a plan of how they will work across a range of different clean energy activities and innovation and entrepreneurship, and working with maybe colleges and universities and community-based organizations to allow them to really understand and access how the DOE and the federal government and to support clean energy related activities. So I said a lot of buzzwords, but this really is a very broad and open prize. And we don't have a preset or a set of ideas of what we're looking for. We really want to hear from the community. We really want to help this, hope this is a first step towards implementing many more of the Biden administration's Justice 40 initiative and really taking the first steps towards building trust between DOE and these communities. So yeah, so the prize is still open for another 11 days. So, it's really easy to apply in, which is at this point, we're looking for a 5,000 word impact plan and a 3-minute video. That's all we want. And yeah, and please check it out. We have a number of different resources that walk you through the process of applying into the prize. And sorry, I have a sneeze, which is why I made a face. But yeah, and this is one of the many prizes we've run in DOE and in ERE. Vanessa, I believe, mentioned the Energy Tech Hub Prize a while ago. And these prizes are really structured in a way that enables us, DOE, to work with a broad range of innovators, but really helps innovators get a foothold into the DOE system and understand how the funding works, and really provide structured funding from small dollar amounts all the way to prizes of up to $1 million to do everything from technology development to ecosystem building, like with the Inclusive Innovation Prize.
Riplani, could I ask you to put that link for that prize
Yes,
in the web? I've got a couple of ideas. 2 questions. One is obviously universities, think tanks and the like, they would be eligible to apply?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes.
this is again a prize that is open to nonprofits, for-profits, local and state governments, colleges.
And how about a venture capital or private equity fund, which is focused on investing in minority energy companies or startups? Do they fit as well?
Sure, yeah. Literally the only people who cannot apply into this prize are federal agencies and people who work at the national labs. Anyone with an idea, any US-based entity with an idea can apply in. Even if you're just a person with a cool idea, but you believe you can do something impactful, you can apply in. Yep.
Super. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Learn something new every day. I've got to keep attending these conferences with my DOE colleagues.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. That's great. Thank you, Rob. And thank you, Riplani. Okay, so I'm going to shift to audience Q&A for the remainder of the portion. I'm going to run through some questions and please feel free to jump in. This first question is pretty general and probably applies to most of you. This audience member asked if you could detail how the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law has helped your respective offices and agencies. And I know some of you have already mentioned some of this, but would be great for you to share anything new.
I think the main thing it's done in Chicago is coalesce the ecosystem, trying to formulate a response to the Build Back Better call. And of course, that's a process that run its course, but it's great to see the ecosystem, sort of join forces in common good, if you will. So that's always a positive, especially in Chicago with a lot of geographic constraints to the ecosystem. We're not all in one place. We're spread across a pretty broad metro as well as region.
The next question is, some of these programs like RPE seem to have high bars for entry for a business like mine. What are the best steps to take to reach those bars?
I think some of those have been mentioned here about other programs that are at DOE that people can tap into to get support. Also, this is a little bit tongue in cheek, but read our funding announcements carefully. We spend a lot of time on them, and we don't just very clearly define metrics we're after, but we talk about why. It's amazing how many questions we get from people that clearly haven't even read the funding announcement. So read that pretty carefully, and that will at least show you where our minds were at and why we decided to come up with the programs that we did, and whether or not what you're working on is a fit or not. A lot of our funding announcements have a concept paper phase first, which is a very light lift. It's like 4 pages. I mean, yes, there's other things that you need to put in there, but I always encourage people to apply. Don't say no to yourself. Let us say no to you if it's not a fit. But looking at the information that we have out there, that's the first step.
I have another person that asked a similar question. What if you need support across the range of entities on this call? Where do you start?
Yeah, Energy I-Corps programs, both DOE and NSF, are great starting points for the sort of folks that apply to my program. They're scientists, they've made a discovery either in a lab setting, industrial setting, and are curious about going to the dark side, forming a startup and running a business. I-Corps, both, again, DOE and NSF, wonderful starting points to test the waters, see if that's something you really want to do.
Thank you. There's another person.
Now, I just want to say, with respect to the SBIR program, many of these other programs, it's not a loan, it's a grant to execute your idea. So the government is taking the risk in terms of investing in your idea, and they think it's a good idea. So the program is designed to allow you to investigate your idea and whether it's feasible and whether it's commercializable. So you can take advantage of these programs. You don't have to pay the money back.
Eileen, also there's someone who asked if their tech doesn't fit within a specific SBIR topic, how can they communicate that with DOE and potentially open up future opportunities?
So yes, we do require that you be responsive to the topics that we release, but if you are working in a similar technology area, look through the topics document, find a program manager's name, because they do have program manager, or their topic managers are called, and they have their email address. You can reach out to a person who's working in your area and say, hey, this is the technology I'm working on. Is there any interest? Is there any other opportunity? I'm not a really good fit with SBIR. And you can also suggest future SBIR topics. So you could try to start a conversation with a topic manager that's listed in our topics document. You can do that now. You can go and find our fiscal year 22 topics and start a conversation. And I did mention that there's 11 other federal agencies who have SBIR, STTR programs. If DOE is not a fit, go to sbir.gov. They have a listing of all the agencies, and then they have the launch sites to all the different SBIR programs. They have a timeline. And just as an example, NSF will fund anything. They accept pitch papers, and they will fund anything they think is a good idea. They're not topic. They don't issue topics. So don't stop at DOE, go to other agencies to find the best place to fund your idea.
It's great. And just a note on top of that is that we do have an open SBIR call right now for 500K 2-year grants that we call SEED. It's one of our rotating topics. And somebody actually put a note on here saying that the topic seems remarkably broad, anything that addresses our mission. That's intentional. That's because we are trying to get things into the agency we haven't done before. So that might be a good place to start.
Yeah, and I just want to add that EERE, we are trying to use SBIR to be open to a broader range of clean energy topics. So we ran a topic this year that was a giant EERE-wide topic on clean energy technology development, but with community partnerships. And this was also part of the Justice 40 initiative, where 8 of the EERE technology offices were really open to a broad range of clean energy technology development. We weren't being very prescriptive on specific ideas, and we just wanted developers to partner with communities as part of the development process. So yeah, read the topics.
The other thing that small businesses can do is partner with the labs and submit joint proposals, STTR proposals. If you don't know what it is, Google it. But the lab partnering service that Vanessa mentioned, labs are great partners to combine forces and get access to resources that you don't have in your small business, but you need in order to advance your technology.
Thank you, John, for mentioning that.
We have another question asking about how your programs coordinate with universities. I know many of yours do. They've asked specifically both with researchers and with professors. So I wanted to hear a little bit from you all about that.
I'll say briefly, we fund academic teams all the time, or they, again, link up with national labs or small businesses or large businesses. You know, we also have some of our program directors are actually on something called an IPA contract from universities, and they actually come here and they're program directors for 3 to 4 years before they go back to their universities. That's another opportunity for people that are really interested in the next step of making an impact to actually come and work at the agency.
Yeah, and in EERE, we also have a number of different collegiate competitions throughout the year, and these are annual. And these are competitions where these are very easy to enter into. They're specifically for undergraduate and graduate college students to form small to large teams and apply in with some sort of business plan. And they are meant to help students get a foothold in the clean energy ecosystem.
I was going to say, we don't have formal partnerships with universities, sort of, let's say, in the research areas that other parts of DOE might have. But you know, we find ourselves, for example, interacting with business schools at universities. So I just spoke last week to the Amos Tuck Business School at Dartmouth University, to their private equity venture capital conference. So our interaction with the academic world is more frequently through the business schools and schools of finance focused on financing the clean energy transition.
So I will just sort of emphasize that our program, it is required that we fund, our grants are provided to small businesses, but universities can be involved. They can be involved in the SBIR program, and they're required to be involved in the STTR program. But we would definitely work with maybe the technology transfer office at a university in terms of providing outreach materials and webinars, because universities are a source of technology spinoff and you know, a source of starting new businesses. So to the extent that it makes sense, we're happy to work with universities. We really, it's like a needle in the haystack problem in a way, is really for me as an outreach manager, is to find those entrepreneurs who have either started small businesses or would like to start a small business to develop their technology and commercialize it.
Thank you all so much. And with that, I'm going to close the audience Q&A. Thank you to all the panelists for your time, your great insights. I hope everyone has learned a lot. I'd like to thank Clean Energy Business Network and Third Way again. And then I'm going to hand it over to Nick, who will close the program. Thank you all.
Well, wow. Thank you all. Thank all of our panelists and our fireside chat. And thank you to the incredible talent at Third Way and the Clean Energy Business Network. I shouldn't have said Third Way first. It sounds like I'm thanking myself. But thank you to the incredible talent that made this event happen. And thank you to all of our attendees who tuned in virtually. I saw some concerns about the chat not being copyable. Have no fear. We are sending out what will turn into a very long follow-up email after this event, so that all of this information will be captured and you will be able to do something with it. I also have been authorized to advertise one more thing. A group called New Deal Leaders, who focus on local and state politics and policy, are hosting an event on how to get and use infrastructure funds for climate impact. So I believe that you all will find it interesting. I have put the link in the chat. Again, the chat will be captured and sent back out to everyone. So thank you once again for tuning in virtually. And I hope that you have a great afternoon and evening.